Barcelona was established 620 kilometers from Madrid on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea between the mouth of the rivers Llobregat and Besòs on the plain protected by the Collserola Ridge. This location greatly contributed to the fact that people started to move and live here in the 4th century. One can find a Rambla, or to be more precise, Ramblas, in every city now, or formerly under Spanish rule. The Ramblas of Barcelona, which is also called the Square of Flowers, consists of 5 squares, each one with an individual name. It's similar to a wide and more than 1 kilometer long street, with traffic going on both sides of it. The promenade, full of sycamore trees, divides the city in 2. Because of its central location, it's a suitable starting point to discover the Catalonian capital. There are many people who dress up in colorful costumes in order to ask for a little financial help after a short performance. There are bicycle-riding skeletons, a spitting image of Che Guevara, classic statues, and also Queen Cleopatra here. The mood of the square is formed by the pavilions of the pet merchants, florists, and newspaper stands. One can buy a monkey, rabbit, parrot, hamster, cat, and who knows what else. The selection of the florists is very wide. One can buy cut flowers, potted plants, and exotic wonders. Originally, the arena was the fighting ground of the Roman circuses, but the name was also used for the moat around the city, which, after a heavy rain, took the water to the sea. During Gothic times, it became a marketplace, which became larger and larger under Arabian rule. It was already called Rambla at that time. In the 13th century, several new gates were opened in the city wall, thus giving a boost to trade. Buildings such as the Santa Monica Monastery, Estudi General University, the Santa Cruz Theater, the San Bonaventura boarding school, and the foundry were built. The Rambla constantly changed from 1775. The Vey fountain was finished, public lighting was introduced, and sycamore trees were planted. Not only the remains of the city wall were demolished, but the lower buildings were also destroyed. A general plan was created, which stated that on the ground level of the 4-story buildings, shops must be established. In 1860, the first licenses for florists and newsagents were given. In southern countries, marketplaces have a central role. Do you remember how fondly Zola describes the stomach of Paris, or Joanne Harris talks about the French marketplace? One can feel the same dedication towards the Spanish cuisine in the St. Joseph Hall. There are hills of fresh fruits, many of them unknown to the untrained eye. There are figs, kumquats, physalis, and carambola. Everything that grows under the Mediterranean sun. Shop owners make a salad from the fruits and sell them in cold plastic glasses. There's a huge quantity of candied and dried fruit. The vegetables are also rare, as for example, endive, beans, asparagus, and artichokes. The myriad of seafood is shown on an ice bed. Lobster, crayfish, scampi, sea urchin, octopus, and calamari. The clams have a nacreous glow, the lobsters are red, and some of the creatures wave to the visitor with their tentacles. However, it's unlikely that they are volunteering to be the main course in the Sunday meal. Some of the fish look at the customers with disgust, while others lie silently on the stands. Seafood is an important part of the Spanish national dish, paella. Butchers offer the Spanish jamón, which is at least as good as any Italian and French hams. There are tempting Catalonian specialties as well, salamis and sausages. There are at least 800 stands in the hall. The Santa Maria del Pi church is the most honored representative of the French Gothic style, while the interior is the Catalonian version of the same style. Its commanding figure stands out with its horizontal proportioning, modest ornaments, and clear-cut lines. The main facade is a perfect quadrangle with 2 pillars on each side. These would have been the holding device for the 2 non-built towers. There's a Trecento Mary statue in the archway above the gate. The motifs of the church echo in the false stuccos of the opposing buildings. In 1848, the city invited applications for a tender for a building to be erected in the place of the demolished Capuchin monastery. The winner of the competition was Francisco Daniel Molina, who, in his revolutionary passion, christened it Plaza Garibaldi, or Garibaldi Square, surrounded with buildings and archways. The name was later changed to Plaza Real. The facades of the 3-story buildings are the same, all closed by a balustrade. In the middle of the square, there's a fountain of the 3 Graces. The archways are ornamented by statues of famous explorers and sailors, and they're also remembered by the palm trees brought here from the New World. The wrought iron lamps were designed by the young Gaudi. Their style is mostly eclectic and architectonic. There's several passages on the sides of the Rambla. To comply with the needs of the age, the traditional building material was substituted by steel. It was this aspiration that inspired the Eiffel Tower in Paris, the San Jose Market, and the Columbus Monument in Barcelona. Somerset Maugham called the Rambla the world's most beautiful street. It's a forever-changing sight which never gets old, a kaleidoscope run by the restless Catalonian temper. The nearby Perot Lo Lladre Street bears the name of a 17th century robber. His figure appears in several Spanish literary pieces. Artists are an integral part of the square. Besides portraits, they love to draw pictures of the city's main sights. In 1568, Philip II of Spain allowed the Santa Cruz Hospital to amuse the patients with dramatic performances. That was the forerunner of the Teatro Principal. The classicist building was finished in the middle of the 19th century. Opposite of the building, there's the statue of Frederick Soler, the founder of modern Catalonian acting. The Museo de Cera is a waxworks museum. There are wax figures of about 300 famous historical figures which, thanks to modern technology, can even speak. Placing small drinking fountains on squares is a nice Catalonian custom. On the Rambla, the tourist can quench his thirst with the water of the Santa Ana, Puerta Frerissa, and Canalates drinking fountains. A relief recently handed over to the public tells us the history of the Rambla and the lives of the people who lived here. The Rambla reaches the sea by the Plaza Puerta de la Paz. The building of the former foundry has served as the headquarters of the Bank of Barcelona since 1844. Beside it is the building of the Military Regency, which in its appearance resembles the Petit Trianon Palace in Versailles. There's the Columbus Monument in the middle of the square, which is the symbol of Barcelona. The 66.6-meter-high monument is made of a stone pedestal, a cast-iron pillar, a gilded globe, and a 7.6-meter-high statue standing on top of it. 4 steps lead up to the pedestal, protected by bronze lions. The reliefs on the pedestal show episodes from the life of the great explorers. The author is Josep Llimona. The monument itself was designed by Galleta Buigas y Monrava in 1882. Cristoforo Colombo, Cristobal Colon in Spanish, was born in 1446, most likely in Genoa. However, many cities would like to claim the title of his birthplace. As a young man, he earned his keep as a sailor and map-maker. He came to the conclusion that he could reach China and India without going around Africa by constantly traveling westwards, based on the idea of Toscanelli. First, he asked for the support of the Portuguese king, but was refused. Therefore, he turned to the Spanish royal couple. The Catholic kings, Ferdinand II and Isabella, decided to support him only after a long time. The original ships were destroyed, but their designs remained. The new Santa Maria was built upon these designs and floated in the harbor for a long time. It's currently in the Barcelona Maritime Museum, while its copy serves as a tourist ship near the island of Madeira. There's a lift inside the monument, since there was not enough room to build stairs. There's a beautiful sight from the globe to the harbor and the Montjuic Hill. From here, one can see the buildings of the Military Regency, the Council of the Harbor Communal Works, the Customs House, the Maritime Museum, and the new harbor. The Council of the Harbor Communal Works was built in 1878 after the complete demolition of the city wall and the opening of the Paseo de Colón. The Secession-style building with its unique towers is the gem of the promenade. It gives room to public offices. The bridge leading to the new harbor building can be turned in order for larger ships to be able to stay in the inner harbor and sail off from there. The harbor building, called the Mare Magnum, looks like the mixture of a modern mall and an airport. Tourists travel from its immense hall to the Canary Islands, the Cape Verde Islands, the Azores, the Balear Islands, and Madeira. But most of the tourists visit the island of Majorca, also a part of Catalonia. There's a three-dimensional movie theater in the building in order to make the wait more comfortable. In front of it, there's an old wooden submarine, the Ictineo II. But it's already a part of Barcelona's important site, the Maritime Museum. The museum was arranged in the giant halls of the Las Atarazanas ship factory. The 36,000 square meter building is the only medieval industrial building which remained in its original state. The factory was in operation between the 14th and 18th centuries. Beside the Maritime Museum, there's a library and archives for charts, photographs, and documents. Parallel to the seaside runs the Paseo de Colón, a wide avenue bordered by palaces. Here in the Barceloneta district, there is the aquarium, as well as the starting point of the Teleférico, the rail taking tourists up to the Montjuic Hill. The natives of Barcelona were the Layetans, who were a tribe of Celtic origin. Their name is kept by the Via Layetana, which lies on the border of the old Gothic and the modern parts of the city. There is a statue of King Berenguer on this avenue. The work of Josep Llimona commemorates the king who for a short time unified Catalonia with Provence. The Catalonian language of our days is closer to the Provençal and contains more French elements than Spanish. The city core was built on the Tabor Hill. 600 years later, the Romans surrounded the area with a 1,270-meter-long, 9-meter-high, 3.5-meter thick wall, which was also protected by 78 towers and bastions. There are some Arabian and Roman relics, but the Gothic quarter is mostly similar to the medieval city, as it was seen by the victims of the Catholic King's Inquisition. The Santa Maria del Mar temple on the seaside part of the Gothic district is a beautiful example of the Spanish Gothic style. Its painted windows and inner domes are an amazing sight. The most famous site of the Gothic quarter is the St. Eulalie Cathedral. Its building began in 1298, and during the 150 years of its construction, many great artists worked on it. In the first 20 years, the work was organized by Juan Fabra. The temple has 3 naves, a transept, and a shrine. Its facade is the work of French architect Charles Galt. The facade looking to the Plaza de la Seu was a generous gift of Don Manuel Girona in the 19th century. The cathedral is typical of the Catalonian Gothic style with its horizontal proportion, smooth surfaces, and flat roof. However, none of this can be seen since the cathedral is being renovated. There's no hope for tourists to see its full beauty before 2010. The interior is 82 meters long. At the end of the main nave, the apsis, there's the crypt of St. Eulalie. There are tombs of saints and bishops in the 28 chapels. The christening chapel was the one where those 6 Indians were christened who were brought back to Europe by Columbus. There's a blackened Christ statue in the first chapel, which was on the victorious ship of Don Juan de Austria in the Battle of Lepanto. Above the balcony of the cannon, there's the crest of the Order of the Golden Fleece. The order was established by Duke Philip III of Burgundy in 1429 to protect faith, virtue, and morals. The honor, which still exists, is maybe the oldest and least frequently given one in the world. The right of bestowal has been owned by the Habsburg family since 1477. The cloister can be accessed through an 11th century Roman-style marble gate. The yard, full of palm trees and evergreens, is surrounded by arches. The chapels opening from here are closed by iron bars. The pavilion of St. George is ornamented by a relief of the saint and a fountain. It's worth taking a look at the medieval exhibition of the museum. The museum gets richer and richer every year. The material is filling up the prebendal office, the prebendal room, and the 2 rooms beneath them. The most valuable relics are the Piete by Bermeo, the 15th century wooden panel picture of the saints, and a carved, painted Virgin Mary statue. The square in front of the cathedral is famous for the Sardana dance. It happens quite often that at the sound of a whistle or a flute, complete strangers hold hands and start a slow, round dance, while more and more people join them. This dance isn't about strong tramping, it isn't quick and passionate, but symbolizes the togetherness of the Catalonian people. The closed circle is the symbol of the unity compared to the outside world. However, if a stranger comes to the circle, it opens up and admits him. They welcome everyone who's willing to understand them. This was written by Norbert Lewandowski. The cathedral is surrounded by buildings so tightly as no other temple. The temple is connected by the St. Lucia chapel to the Calle Obispo. The help of St. Lucia is required mostly for problems related to the eyes. Blind people of Barcelona hold their annual ball in the cloister of the cathedral. There are so many religious buildings in the Gothic quarter that it's hard to name them all. The Palace of the Deacon, the Palace of the Bishop, the Temple of St. Philip Romoloneri, the Temple of St. Severus, the Prebendary House, the Temple of St. Eustace and the Good Shepherd, the St. Agatha Chapel, the House of the Charitable Almoners. Among profane buildings, the City Hall, the Provincial Office, the Governor's Palace, and the Gallery of Catalonian Excellences stand out. Each of them has an inner yard with arches, decorated by glazed tiles and cooled by fountains, with palm trees in the yards. In the longest part of the medieval period, the Balear Islands, Valencia, Sardinia, and Corsica were ruled by the Aragon-Catalonian Kingdom, paying their income tax to Barcelona. During the reign of Ferdinand II, the maritime power of the kingdom became much stronger. The religious, military, political, and diplomatic power reigned in these palaces until the 18th century. Several museums speak about the 2,000 years of development. The two-storied Gothic building of the City Hall was purchased by the city in the 18th century, and the matters of the city have been governed from here since then. The Hall of the Hundred, the Hall of Chronicles, and the Council Chamber can be visited between 10 a.m. and noon each day. The Royal Palace incorporates Roman, Gothic, and Renaissance elements and was built between the 11th and 16th centuries. The monumental design of the facade reflects the taste of the popes of Avignon. There are 3 entrances to the left of the entrance of the palace, with Roman-style windows divided into 3. Above the 3 arches there are small galleries with carved stone roses. The Triforium was built under the rule of Peter the Great, while the rose ornaments were the idea of Peter IV, King of Aragon. From the 5-story guard tower, the whole Gothic district can be seen. The square, named after Berenguer, is exceptionally beautiful from here. The Assembly Hall of the palace was the scene of many historical moments of Spanish and Catalonian history between 1372 and 1935. In its time, the 17-meter-wide dome of Guillem Carbonell was a real architectural achievement. The Catalonian Assembly Hall was built upon the order of Peter IV, and its arches support a boarded ceiling. Originally, there were 19 alabaster statues of Master Alloy here, but these and the paintings of Rome des Feux disappeared during the turmoil of the intervening centuries. The St. Agatha Chapel is part of the Royal Palace, as is the work of Pere de Oliveira. There are only a few Roman relics in Barcelona. Among these are the 2 large 4-story towers which protected the northeastern gate of the city wall. Less known are the pillars of the Roman Forum and the remains of the Spa, which were only found in the 20th century under the yard of a Gothic palace. The Columnus Romanus is one of the monuments difficult to find. Luckily, those who take part in the round trip by bus are treated to a free tour to the Gothic Quarter, and then all secrets are revealed. The sightseeing is conducted in Spanish, English, or German. The people here are very proud of prominent Catalonians, especially of Gaudí and Dalí, and the honorable Catalonian Picasso. Let's not forget that Joan Miró, Josep Maria Jujol, and Pablo Casals were also born here. East of the Gothic Quarter is the Picasso Museum in the Berenguer Palace. The painter was born in the Andalusian Malaga in 1881, but moved to Barcelona with his parents at the age of 15. His rich career started here to be fulfilled in Paris. Picasso lived in almost the whole Mediterranean area with his different muses. His artistic periods were denoted by colors. This exhibition contains many of his early figurative pieces, which enrich the ideas developed about his art and make him beloved by even those who are not fond of modern painting. Salvador Dalí was born in 1904 as the son of a Catalonian notary in Figueras. The genius of surrealistic painting has his own exhibition in his birthplace, but some of his fascinating pieces can also be seen in Barcelona. The Plaza de Catalunya is the busiest square of the city. Under it, there's a railway station. From here, trains depart towards the French border and the Pyrenees. There's several statues in the hall. The water comes from a few dolphins' mouths into the overly romantic fountain. The goddess statue of Josep Clara hails the eternal beauty of the naked female body. The symbolic statue of trade is the work of Federico Maras. It's a man wearing a helmet, leading a horse, and a woman on the horse who holds a ship. In Catalonia, the master of incomprehensible symbols is disliked because he was the one who made the Victoria statue for General Franco. There are 6 more statues on the square, bordered by shops and banks where the tourists enjoy cooling down in the spray of the fountains. The square can be divided into 2. The upper part is covered by grass. The new square was unveiled in 1927. There are 6 entrances to the metro. Several lines cross each other here. From this point, one can reach almost every part of the city by metro or bus. However, it's more practical for tourists to take one of the sightseeing buses. All these buses stop here at the end of the trip. There are 3 kinds of tours: green, red, and blue. Each of them visit all the most important sites of the city. One can take off anywhere, see a museum, church, or other building, and return to the buses, which leave every 10 minutes. The daily ticket is valid for an unlimited number of ons and offs, from morning until dusk, while navigation is helped by a map provided with the ticket. The ticket also gives a price reduction for certain admission fees and discounts in some cafes and restaurants. The Green Line takes the tourists along the coast and in the harbor. One passes by the Governor's Palace and the main post office, and also gets a glimpse at the Plaza de Medinaceli and the statue of the Catalonian genius. The latter 2 are the works of Francesco Daniel Molina, who was not only a sculptor, but alongside Gaudi, the greatest architect of the city as well. In the crossing of Avenida Gran Via de la Cort Catalanes and 2 other avenues stands the God Save Spain monument. The work of Gaudi's follower, Josep Maria Jujol, unified a statue, a fountain, and the internal fire in this one piece. The statues in the 3 chambers symbolize the 3 Spanish seas: the Mediterranean, the Calabrian, and the Atlantic Ocean. There's a waterfall coming down from under the statues and a large eternal fire on top of the pillars. Behind the monument is the arena for corridas. The round-shaped neo-Moor building can hold up to 15,000 people. It's currently being renovated, but Barcelona has another arena, the Plaza de Toros Monumental, which also has a museum. Corridas are held on Thursdays, Sundays, and on holidays. In order to know what to expect, one should read Death in the Afternoon by Hemingway. Going towards the Montjuic Hill, the next site is the Caixa Forum, a cultural center, which gives space mostly to modern arts. The Pueblo Español, the Spanish village, was built by Miguel Utrillo and Xavier Narguez with the purpose of letting visitors of the 1929 World Fair learn about the architecture of Spain without leaving Barcelona. Vajdahunyad Castle of Budapest was built for similar reasons. Neither of them is an open-air museum, since these are not original buildings from different parts of the country, but copies of the most general ones. The buildings are not built in their original proportions. The building materials like stone, brick, tile, wood, however, are from the place of origin. The main entrance is a copy of the St. Vincent Gate of Avila. Squares and streets change as the province changes. One can see the characteristic buildings and squares of Castile, Galicia, Aragon, Catalonia, Andalusia, Basque Country, and Extremadura. In their workshops, glassblowers, blacksmiths, woodcarvers, goldsmiths, carpet makers, and confectioners prepare their goods in front of tourists. The National Museum of Applied Arts shows visitors the old tools of agriculture, hunting, fishing, and pastoral duties. During the summer, at the entrance of the village, mounted policemen are having regular ceremonies. Laszlo Huba writes the following in his diary. This is a sort of summary of Spain, which was established especially for tourists. All areas of Hispania represent themselves, palaces, styles, as well as products and clothing. The Pueblo Español was made for the World Fair, but it's been in use ever since. The towered building of the Museum of Catalonian Arts opened its doors to visitors in 1934. The monumental gallery is a real maze and has 34 halls, with pictures placed mostly in chronological order. The frescoes of the antechamber were painted by Togores and Humbert. In the first 6 halls, there are Roman-style frescoes and fragments originating from the Catalonian land. The most valuable piece is the fresco of the apsis of the St. Clement Chapel, which was sanctified in 1123, called Christ Pantocrator. The author is unknown, the value is inestimable. The secular pieces from the last 2 halls are from the palaces of the nobles of Barcelona. The sites of the first floor are the throne room and tea salon, ornamented by Baroque stuccos. As a real Spanish specialty, it's worth it to take a look at the Azulejo exhibition. Part of the painted tiles surfaced during an excavation. A famous site of the city is the Fuente Luminosa, the illuminated fountain, where pumps push 2,430 liters of water in the air every minute to be sprayed by fans. The water is lit by 4,730 lamps, with 10 colored filters on every one of them. The fountain was built for the 1929 World Fair by engineer Carlos Buigas. Of course, today, the whole mechanism is controlled electronically. From the stairs of the museum, not only the fountain and the 2 pillars formerly serving as the entrance of the World Fair can be seen, but the whole Sagrada Familia district, with the famous cathedral in the center. The Olympic swimming pool, where the swimming, water polo, and diving events were held, was built into the mountain in a terraced way. Nowadays, tourists marvel at the panorama of the city from the pool. The Barceloneta is a triangular area surrounded by the harbor and beaches, which exists thanks to an order by Philip V at the beginning of the 1700s. Up to this day, mostly fishermen and sailors lived here with their families. Carlos Buigas, the designer of the illuminated fountain, wanted to connect this romantic district with the Montjuic Hill. The plan was accomplished only 2 years after the 1928 World Fair. The suspended rail, called Teleférico, starts from the Barceloneta district and finishes its journey after 1,300 meters in Miramar Park on the Montjuic Hill. The height of the starting point is 80 meters, while the middle station is located at 107 meters. There's also a rail on the Montjuic which departs from nearby Miramar Park and goes above the star-shaped Military History Museum.